The Icons of Real Estate Podcast. Are you ready to learn the proven money-making secrets from top-producing Icon agents? Ready to skyrocket your business? This podcast is for you. Tune in every week with your host, Tomasz Fonseca, and find out how to implement proven strategies to 10 times your business. From $3 million to $30 million in just 12 months. Brought to you by the Masters in Real Estate Marketing, Arter SEO.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we've got another special guest on the Icons of Real Estate podcast. Welcome, Trina Foster. Trina, how are you? It's nice to have you on the podcast.
Hello, thank you so much for having me on. I'm doing very well today, thank you.
Okay, that's awesome. Trina, I'm looking at your bio. It says you live and work in Arizona. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes, sir.
Okay, it also says you've got 30 years experience in healthcare.
Yes, sir.
Wow. So tell me, what made you transition from 30-year career in healthcare to real estate?
Well, to be honest with you, I was in the last 20 years that I was in healthcare. I was in healthcare administration, and I didn't feel like I was directly making an impact to patients any longer. Because when I first started in healthcare, I was a medical assistant. So I had one-on-one contact with patients and physicians. As time went on, though, it became very frustrating to me that most of the administration was more concerned about the dollar than the patients. And I didn't feel like it was any longer about quality patient care. And the last 3 years that I was operations director in healthcare, I got my real estate license, and I was doing 2 or 3 residential transactions a year and anywhere between 1 and 3 commercial transactions a year for my employer.
Wow, that's amazing. So
I decided that I wanted to have a more direct impact on people, on individuals. And so I decided to go full time into real estate because I'm
Wonderful.
still helping.
So how would you say your background in healthcare has influenced your approach in real estate?
I would say I'm probably more empathetic than some colleagues that I know personally, and not only just being empathetic and truly caring about my clients, but being able to do the project management and keep everything together, because it truly is, real estate is very, very similar to project management, because you've got 10 or 12 different people to manage to make this thing all come together, and you have to be the one that coordinates it.
Wow.
Typically.
Okay, so what do you love most about living and working in Arizona?
Well, I was born and raised here. So I'm a second generation native on my mom's side and 6th on my dad's. So our family roots are pretty deep here. I love Arizona because of its diversity, not only in its population, but also in the terrain. Because, for instance, where I live, probably 35 miles out northwest of the Phoenix area. So I'm a little bit in the outskirts and still in the desert. But if I want to, tomorrow I can get in my car and I can drive an hour and a half, 2 hours north into the woods, and I can be in 20 degrees cooler temperatures in tall pines. So I can go from desert to pines in just a matter of minutes. And as far as working out here, I love it. It's my home. I know it very well. I know the valley extremely well. And I don't love the weather this time of year, but I'd say about 9 months out of the year, we really have good weather. But we have about 3 months that it's really hot. And right now it's really hot and it's really humid.
Wow. That's nice. So are you married? Do you have any kids?
Yes, I'm married. I've been for 21 years. We do not have any children. We have fur babies. We have the 4-legged variety. So our dogs are very, very spoiled. Extremely spoiled. And I do have nieces and nephews, and they have kids too. So I have great nieces and nephews. So I'm around the kids and the family all the time. It's just, unfortunately, it didn't happen for me.
Wow. Sounds like you have a great family there. So I guess my question is, how do you balance your professional life as well as with the family life? I'm sure you're very busy.
It is tough sometimes, but I try to block out time only for myself and taking care of me. So also my business, I have time blocks for my business and also for my family time. We do have a full house here. My in-laws also live with us, my elderly in-laws. So it can be a challenge sometimes with such a busy house, but I get it done.
Well, I know you've been in the healthcare industry for 30 years. How many years have you done in the real estate?
I have been licensed for 6 years, almost 6 years. Mhm.
For 6 years.
So three of that I was still working full time, and about 2.5 years full time in.
Okay. So what are some of the challenges you faced and how do you navigate those challenges?
In real estate,
Yes, in real estate, yeah.
well, I believe that every transaction is different. And if that's what you're talking about is the actual getting the clients to their end goal, there's a lot of negotiation that can be done. And sometimes it means convincing the client that they might need to expand their search a little bit. For instance, I had a client that comes to mind right away that he was a younger veteran in his 30s. He was disabled and he just applied for a VA loan just for the heck of it. He didn't think he'd get approved, and he did. Well, he didn't have to have a down payment because of the VA, but he had very little money for even earnest money or closing costs. And this was actually in the fall of 2022. So the market was a little bit crazy right then. And he kept wanting to look in the city, in these spots. And he wasn't happy with anything that we were seeing because you're not going to get what you want. So I convinced him to spend a day with me, and we went further out. We went out probably about 45 minutes from where he was looking, and we looked at 5 homes. We found him a home, and we were able to negotiate not only a lower price, but also seller paid closing costs. Even at that time, we were able to do that for him. And we got him into the home, and it's just a matter of, it's creative thinking. You got to think outside the box to sometimes get things done for your clients.
Right. Again, I know you've worked in the healthcare industry for such a long time. 30 years is a long time.
Yes.
And you probably have come across physicians and other healthcare professionals. How do you assist people like that in finding their ideal homes?
Actually, for most of my healthcare connections that I've worked with, it's been to help them find commercial properties for medical space, which I'm very, very comfortable doing. So I guess I can't answer that honestly, but I would treat them no different than I do any other client. It doesn't matter if you're a buyer with me or a seller with me. It doesn't matter if your house is $275,000 or $2 million. You're going to get the same treatment from me.
Right. So can you share some of the tips for buyers, let's say in the 228 to 717,000 price range? What are some of the tips you can give buyers like that?
Well, I think buyers need to be aware that it's not just, oh, we're going to have a 7% interest rate, we can't buy. They often don't realize that there are options out there like down payment assistance, negotiating seller paid closing costs. There are ways to get you into a home if that's what you want. And if you want to get in a home, the time to do it was yesterday. The next best time is today. Because if people are waiting, oh, there's going to be a crash, oh, the rates are going to come back down to 2%. That's very, very likely not going to happen. And what will happen is when the floodgates open and the buyers start buying again, because we do have, at least in my market, we have more than sufficient inventory. And if those buyers wait until they have competition, they're going to end up paying more anyway. So if you're ready to buy, I say do it.
Right. So what would you say is the most particularly memorable successes that you've experienced in your career so far as a realtor?
Well, the most memorable is the one that I told you about, my young VA buyer. Making that happen, I wasn't sure that we would ever be able to do that in that market. But I have successfully negotiated seller paid closing costs and, lower list price for some of my clients. And I just love it when it happens, especially when they're first time home buyers. Seeing them handing a first time home buyer the keys to their brand new home or to the new to them home is just an amazing feeling that just melts your heart.
Mm, that's wonderful. So how's the real estate industry changed since you started, and how
Yes.
have you adapted to that change?
It has changed quite a bit because it was pretty fast paced when I first got in. It was a completely different market than what it is right now. Right now, it is a little bit slower. So, for instance, on some of my listings, we're having to adjust the pricing strategy and realize that the house may value at a higher amount, but will it sell in this market at that amount? And you just base that off of your showings and your activity. And we've had to do some price reductions on all of my listings. So I just hope that when I do have those conversations with my sellers, for instance, I had a listing that went live today. I talked to them about the importance of listing a little bit below market to get the activity on there. And they agreed with it and understood my reasoning. And so we went live today, and we'll see how the activity goes.
Wonderful. So as someone who's worked with people for so many years,
Mhm.
what advice would you give someone just starting the career in real estate? And what qualities do you believe are essentials for a successful real estate career?
I would say one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would have is don't overthink things. Just do it. Just get it done. Just go and do it. If you're scared, good, do it. That means you're out of your comfort zone and you're growing. So I would definitely say that. Well, from my perspective, because I'm a little bit different than some of the other realtors out there. There's a lot of realtors out there that are very transactional. They just want the numbers and focus on just getting it done. They do 500 cold calls a day and just pump it through. My business is, I'm building it based on relationships, and probably 75% of my business has been referrals from either past clients or from friends and family, or just from social media too. But you have to be willing to develop those relationships and just talk to people, because if you don't, people aren't going to know, like, and trust you. And that's what's important in real estate, is that people know, like, and trust you.
Right. So what future goals do you have for your career in real estate, and how do you plan to achieve them?
Well, I'm doing a lot of, I just started a newsletter for my business. I'm really heavily utilizing my CRM that has AI overlay on it now that I get that from my brokerage. I want to grow to where I need to bring in an assistant and a VA. And once I get there, keep building on that, and then eventually have that passive income coming in from those folks that I brought in.
That's wonderful. We've come to the end of our podcast. And look, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're a very busy woman. For you to take the time out of your busy schedule to just come talk to us, so we really appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, and thank you to the Icons of Real Estate podcast for sponsoring this episode.